Nashville Predators hang on for a big 4-3 shootout win over the Blackhawks, one that made a little bit of team history. Plus, Barrie Trotz comments on Tyson Barrie's trade request. And these got spicy, my friend. We'll talk about it today on the Locked On Predators podcast.
Your Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making the Locked On Predators podcast your first listen of the day every single day. We are your free daily Nashville Predators podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, I want to start out with a special hello to our loyal Locked On Pred heads out there, the everydayers who tune into every single show. We love you guys, and we appreciate the support you give us week in and week out. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer at Penalty Box Radio, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer at the Hockey News.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. All right, and Predators get a big 4-3 win over the Chicago Blackhawks. Win maybe not as sexy as a Colorado win or anything like that, but big in the sense that this was a Central Division team on the road. Some inconsistent results over the past week or so, and this just felt like a game in which, maybe helps the Predators stay consistent a little bit.
Yeah, it was not necessarily pretty that you're not going to get a bunch of style points for the game, but it was a road win. It was a back-to-back win after the win in Buffalo, which was also kind of one of those gritty gut check wins. And at this point, Nashville, collect points however you collect points. Not every game is going to be an easy win, although on paper you would think this would have been something that wouldn't have needed to go to a shootout. But Chicago, I think, put up, some interesting offense, and Nashville, was able to still come away with the win. So look, a win is a win. When you've got a team trying to build some momentum, they got some momentum. 4-3 shootout win.
Yeah, if you're a big fan of rebounds, deflected shots, and weird bounces, This was the game for you, my friend. Yeah. Let's run through it. Blackhawks took a 1-0 lead in the first, but Luke Evangelista and Mark Jankowski, just seconds apart, gave the Preds the lead in the second. Blackhawks would tie the game and then take the lead. Not long after that, Nick Foligno had 2 goals in this game. Ryan O'Reilly got one back in the power play halfway through the second. A gritty third period for the Nashville Predators. A lot of big hits both ways. A lot of sustained offense for both teams, especially the Blackhawks early in that period. And then we go to a shootout, and the Nashville Predators, for the first time since 2008, which is when these stats started being kept. So potentially for the first time in franchise history, the Nashville Predators scored on all 3 shootout goal chances or shootout shots or whatever we call those.
Right.
Shootout attempts, I guess. So a little bit of history there. Shootout. 4-3, the final score. Preds get 2 points. And your one word to describe last night's win.
My one word to describe last night's win somehow is again about food. I think I have a thing going on with food here lately.
This is why I love you.
This is why we work.
Yes.
But my one word is Yasso, as in Yasso frozen Greek yogurt treats. Because here's what's real, friends. A lot of evenings you get done eating dinner, you sit down and you think, you know what I need? I need a dessert. And when I want a dessert, I want something like Andy's frozen custard, or I want like Culver's. Like that's what I want.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to get up and go. So the other night I thought, okay, surely there's something in my freezer, rooted around. And one day when I thought I was going to start eating healthy, I bought at the grocery store Yasso frozen Greek yogurt cookie dough treats. Oh. And, so you're like, okay, I'm going to have this. Look, here's what's real. It's not necessarily what you want. Andy's, Culver's is going to be so much better than this, but it's what you have. And you get a couple of bites where you get a little nibble of some chocolate chip cookie dough, and that makes it better. You get done with it and you thought, well, that was a dessert. It was better than nothing. Not as satisfying as like Andy's or Culver's, but it was something. This game for me was a Yasso dessert, where it wasn't the game that I wanted. You look on paper and you think, okay, the Predators taking on the Blackhawks. The Blackhawks are last and odd man rushes against. They're really struggling on special teams. This is a great opportunity to like have a Culver's game. It's just, you're going to hit it out of the park. You're going to get tons of offense. You're going to have a chance to get some players to connect and find the back of the net. That's not the game we had. We had a Yasso game. It was a dessert. You got a couple bites of cookie dough, not as satisfying as you had hoped for, but it's not nothing. And that's kind of how this game felt to me.
Yeah, I feel like you're just making up brands.
No, for real. It's called Yasso. Y-A-S.
Well, I mean, there's Yasso. There was, what was the other one? Like Daniel's Delightful Dairy Dip or something.
I don't remember. I really am not making them up. I
know Culver's. Yeah, Culver's is 10 out of 10.
Oh, Andy's. Have you never had Andy's?
No.
Oh my gosh. Andy's frozen custard. It literally, when we bought our new house this summer, in the back of my mind, I filed away the fact that in theory, I could walk to Andy's. I never do. I always drive.
Yeah.
But it is chef's kiss when you're looking for like some sort of a cold dessert. Andy's. Woo.
Yeah, if it's not Ben and Jerry's or Jenny's.
No. This is like Jenny's level, but it's frozen custard. It's amazing. Anyway,
gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. My one word for last night's win is Jenny's. No, it's not. My one word for last night's win, Anne, is Red Rover. Do you remember Red Rover, the game you used to play as kids? Where it's basically like you and 6 friends form like a human chain and hold hands. And then there's another human chain opposite side. And you're like, Red Rover, send Connor Bedard over. And the point of the game was for them to just run as fast as they can through like one of the hand holding things and break that chain and get to the side. And if, they break the chain, then, they get to steal somebody from your team. If, you get stuck, you have to stay on their team.
Yes.
And it's just kind of like a, war of attrition kind of thing. And the point is just to hold on to your friend's hand as hard as you can, like hold that line, make sure they don't cross. And that just felt like this Nashville Predators game. Last night, especially in that third period, especially right at the beginning when the Blackhawks had, a lot of chances early on, a lot of sustained pressure. We saw like some big hits. Luke Evangelista was treated like a punching bag by Norty. Was kind of surprised somebody like Luke Shen or Jeremy Lazan didn't go after Tenorti.
Yeah.
You had the overtime where the Blackhawks definitely, I think, got the better scoring opportunities. And it just felt like the Predators were just gripping each other's hands just so tightly, not to let that line break. It's just like, all right, we're taking the fattest kid on the team is gearing up and running 100 miles an hour, ready for at us. We're just got to grip and hold as hard as we can. Let's get this thing to the shootout. Let's survive here. And that's what this game felt like. It just felt like the Predators, they all had each other's hands. They were gripped tight and they were just holding on. Yes. Holding on, surviving everything that Chicago threw that way. And, you wound up winning Red Rover and you got 2 crucial points and a big win on the road. Huge. Over a Central Division rival. And on the road, it's a big thing because that's a place the Preds have struggled mightily this year.
Yeah. Red Rover was one of those games I'm surprised they haven't outlawed like lawn jarts because kids would always get clotheslined and get hurt in elementary school. It was rough where I grew up, man. Red Rover was cutthroat.
Yeah, it's almost a neighborhood fight because some 14-year-old kid like bull rushed my 7-year-old sister and almost picked a fight with that kid.
You were like, I'm going to Michael McCarron all up in here.
Yeah, he was like 2 years older and probably like 3 inches taller, so I would have gotten my ass beat. But I was ready to Jordan Tutu that kid.
I love it. I love it.
One of the most notable things about the game last night was who was in the lineup. Tyson Barrie was in there, and it's notable because of some comments from Barrie Trotz, not but a few hours before puck drop. We'll talk about that, plus more standouts from last night's game coming up in just 1 second. First, I want to mention today's show is sponsored by Game Time. Going to sporting events, concerts, theater, all that stuff, that is really fun. But buying tickets to those events can be stressful, especially if it's a venue you're not really familiar with. You're not sure where the best seats are. You're not sure where the good views of all the park and venue is. That's where Game Time comes in handy. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you a complete peace of mind with your purchase. You can see the view from your seat, the exact view from your exact seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. And they're all in prices, show your total upfront, so you know you're getting a great deal without hidden fees. And you can buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps on your phone. No need to go to the box office or scroll through email after email trying to find it. You take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. So download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
This episode's also brought to you by our great friends at FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers do stay hot on FanDuel. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That is $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, look, there is no better time to get in on the action. This app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. I don't know that there's a bet for how many more staff people will be fired by the Titans midseason, but you can look on there and see. So go and check it out. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and kick off this NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
All right, Anna. Nashville Predators beat the Chicago Blackhawks 4-3 at the United Center last night. Get a big 2 points against a Central Division team. What stood out to you in this game last night?
A couple of things I think really stood out to me. For me, I think we have to talk about the shootout goals. You know, you mentioned it was the first time since they started tracking this in 2008 that the Predators made all 3 shootout goals, which I think is noteworthy. I also think it's noteworthy the goals that were scored. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Gus Nyquist, Ryan O'Reilly, Philip Forsberg. Holy cow. Soderblom either has children or one day will have children that will see those highlights. Those were incredible shootout goals. I mean, breathtaking shootout goals from all 3 of them. Just incredible. So I think we have to give props to those guys for coming in and not only getting it done, but getting it done with such emphatically pretty hockey goals. Just amazing.
Yeah, and I think we also have to give a little shout out to our old OTF buddy, Brian Baston, who before the game, he puts out his goalie charts every game, and said that, look, Soderblom is like very, very weak on his right side. And then all of the shootout goals were on the right side.
Yeah.
So I think we owe just a little bit of credit for maybe a little scouting shout out. Yeah, I mean, those goals were great. And, you know, of course, as pointed out this morning, Alex Doherty tweeted out that this was the first time since they started keeping these kind of stats that the Predators went 3 for 3 on a shootout.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, they may have gone 3 for 3 some other time, but they started keeping this, I think, 2 seasons into the shootout. So this might be the first time in franchise history the Preds went 3 for 3, which is kind of cool and also very rare. in the NHL nowadays. So yeah, shout out to that. The other people were just the players that stepped up last night, Anne. We talked about it before this game. Michael McCarron, my God, what a game from number 47. You talk about Juuso Parssinen having, I think also he got an assist last night, but it was also just his two-way play and the way he was driving the net. I think that's the best that he personally has looked in a few games as well. And then Colton Sissons making some big plays down the stretch. So this was, you had goals from Forsberg, you had goals from O'Reilly, but this was the shootout goal from Forsberg,
right?
But this was, I think, the story of, kind of the Preds' depth stepping up and having some really big moments in the game last night.
Yeah. And I think this game also was very much about location, as in, you see the Predators getting to the front of the net and you look at the goals that were scored in this game, rebound goals. These were rebound goals put in. Mark Jankowski got his first goal coming back up to the NHL last night. Evangelista's goal was a rebound goal. Just being in front of the net and cleaning up those kind of shots, I think is a great lesson, for the Predators. Location matters. Get in front of the net. You just never know what's going to happen. I love that the Predators got a power play goal. I felt like that was a very well executed power play by the Nashville Predators, who have really kind of struggled to finish on some of their power play chances. The other player I want to give a shout out to, and I promise you I'm not trying to sound like a broken record, but can we give a shout out again to Spencer Stastny?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm telling you what, this young man is just showing that he is very comfortable in the NHL with this style of play, being able to read, hey, when are the best times for me to drop down and get involved in this? When do I need to stay back? He had a fantastic defensive play on Connor Bedard, which, I was like, let's go Spencer Stastny, but also was out there on the penalty kill and had some great plays on the penalty kill. And was out there in overtime. I think the Nashville Predators have a lot of confidence in this young defenseman. And, I know we've got to get Alexander Carrier back healthy. We've got to talk about some other things on the defense, which we're going to do in a minute.
Yeah.
But I really love what we're seeing from Spencer Stastny. Just tons of growth, tons of you're seeing that he understands how this game is played and that there is a next level in the NHL. And he seems like he is just able to catch up and read it so well. So shout out again to Spencer Stastny.
Well, it's his skating. His skating number one. There's this argument's been had by a lot of people in Nashville media, but possibly already the best pure skater on the team. Certainly among the up and coming the players and prospects. So there's a lot of people that's this is he's skating like Roman Josi.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the first thing that hands out. And even if you're somebody like Spencer Stastny, where your pure offense isn't quite there yet. Mm-hmm. Even if your scoring is not there, if you don't have the shot, if you don't necessarily have the elite playmaking, setup skills, anything like that, if you have that speed and you have that skating, you can kind of do a lot of things with it. You can go in and sort of attack the zone, make people kind of respect your game. Maybe that opens up space for other players to operate. On defense, you can cover a lot more ground.
Yes, absolutely.
You can go toe to toe with somebody like Nathan McKinnon, the best skaters in the league. If you're, on the penalty kill, just kind of playing stay-at-home defense, you can cover more ground, get into passing lanes faster. So, it doesn't look like, Spencer Stastny is ever going to become a 50-point NHL offensive defenseman or anything like that. But his skating is up there with the best of them. And that is certainly, I think, going to give him a lot of opportunities, especially in the Preds' top four, because it seems like there's a shakeup coming. And I have to wonder, Anne, if this shakeup that we're going to talk about and that we talked about yesterday is happening because players like Stastny are coming into the lineup and being look, like he's impressing. He's proving that he can kind of play this role full time. Let's kind of transition towards sort of the next generation because they're proving that they can handle it.
Yeah, I definitely think that there is an element of all that's happening defensively with the Nashville Predators that has to do with the fact that Spencer Stastny, and I'm even going to say Mark Del Gaizo when he came up, these younger players who are starting to get their chances in the NHL, they are taking full advantage of these opportunities and really showing, hey, we're going to be ready. We're going to be ready. And I think that does make a difference. I also want to say I love that they put Stastny with Luke Schenn, who is still working to get up to game speed, because Spencer Stastny's speed covers a multitude of sins when you're out with somebody who is still working to get back up to game speed. So yeah, I do think what we're seeing from some of these younger defensemen factors into some of the decisions that the front office is making when it comes to the future of some veteran defensemen, shall we say.
One of those defensemen is Tyson Barrie. For the past 2 days, we've talked about Tyson Barrie reportedly given permission to seek a trade. Barrie Trotz has finally chimed in on those reports, and oh boy.
He said some things.
That I think a lot of people are now going back and looking at like, wow, Tyson Barrie was in the lineup last night.
Yeah.
We will talk about those things that Barrie Trotz said in just 1 second.
First, I want to let you know this episode's brought to you by Indeed. When you are drafting your fantasy team, do you ever wish you could do the same thing with your business team? Look, if you are building a roster to win the league, you need Indeed. With Indeed, you can find top talent fast with Indeed's suite of powerful hiring tools like Indeed Instant Match, assessments, and virtual interviews. Indeed does all the hard work for you. You sponsor a job and boom, Instant Match shows you candidates whose resumes on Indeed fit your job description immediately after you post. With Instant Match, you can start hiring fast. Join over 3 million businesses worldwide using Indeed to hire great talent fast. Indeed knows that finding people with the right skills makes all the difference when you're a hiring team of one. So visit Indeed.com/lockedon to start hiring now. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon. Again, Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Cost per application pricing not available for everyone. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
All right, let's talk about the elephant in the room, Anne, which is the Tyson Barrie latest. Was back in the lineup just hours, although important to note that he played the fewest minutes of any Preds player last night. So Barrie Trotz was on 102.5 The Game last night with Jared Stillman. Barrie Trotz gave a couple of different takes on the Tyson Barrie trade talk. First, about Tyson Barrie being scratched. Basically said different players react to that news differently. And he said he didn't like the way that Tyson Barrie reacted to it, saying several times that he was very disappointed in Barrie's reaction. And even, said a famous line that a lot of people attributed to some other type of moves made this offseason. I want you to come to Nashville to win, not retire.
Yeah.
Also went on to mention that the healthy scratch was dictated, by Barrie's play, not more than anything else. And that wasn't all. We heard the reports that Tyson Barrie was given permission to seek a trade. Here's what Barrie Trotz said. Very disappointed that news got out because, quote, there's only about 4 people in the world that knew about it. I was very disappointed in that. It didn't come from the Preds. I do know that 100%. Obviously, someone felt that it should get out there, and they put it out there. We will get on the phones and say, Tyson's not happy in this situation right now. Are there any takers? So not only was Barrie Trotz unhappy with Tyson Barrie's play, unhappy to how he reacted about being a healthy scratch, and unhappy that Barrie and his team went out and talked to, I guess, media members and announced that there might be, that they have put in a trade request.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack from that conversation with Barry Trotz. And I appreciate the fact that Trotz was willing to be as transparent about this as he was. But I think that he was very intentional about being transparent. And we can talk about that in a minute. But overall, what did you take away from this conversation? Like, what were kind of the big takeaways for you after Trotz kind of had this conversation with Jared Stillman?
I also appreciate Trotz being transparent because this is giving us great content for our podcast. This is fantastic.
Ooh, very
yeah,
Trotz.
I mean, it's very rare to hear the team being this candid about it. I mean, how many times has, a situation with a player not worked out, or, trade talks moving slow, when we'll hear like the player's agent be like, oh, we hate this. Like, there's a situation in Edmonton happening right now with Philip Broberg where, the agent put out a statement. It's like, this we're frustrated with the Oilers right now for this situation. You rarely hear the general manager of a team just throw a player under the bus like this. Kind of like playing like, okay, you want to play that game? Okay, I'll tell you what happened. This player sucked. We scratched him. He threw a hissy fit. And then he demanded a trade, and now he's talking to everybody about wanting a trade. Well, maybe we'll trade him, maybe not. Maybe he'll be out on the ice as a seventh defenseman and, play 11 minutes a game, less than Luke Shen, less than Michael McCarron. Yeah, this is kind of, it's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say like a good or bad thing. I'm just saying it's interesting because we never hear like a GM kind of go scorched earth on this. They kind of keep a lot of things close to the chest. And, we've heard like some very transparent reactions from Trotz already, whether it's about Duchesne or Johansson or, whoever you think some of his, we want you to win, come here to win, not retire remarks were directed to. Yeah, I mean, it's just, you're not really expecting that from Barry Trotz. And, you didn't even really hear that from him as a head coach, like him going scorched earth on players.
Yeah, I think Barry Trotz, like you say, this definitely is a conversation that's generating a lot of other conversation, because Trotz was very transparent about, hey, you know what? We sat him. And I love that Barry Trotz said, look, I once healthy scratched Alex Ovechkin. Now, you didn't do it probably when Alex Ovechkin was a veteran. But he's like, look, this is the gig. If you're not playing well, you get healthy scratched. And I don't like the way you reacted to it. And he kind of insinuated that maybe it was a little unprofessional. He talked about, you need to react to these things with professionalism and maturity, which sort of implies that maybe he felt like Tyson Barrie had not. And then, very clear that like, look, we didn't leak this information. This information came from Barrie and his camp. But I do think that it's very smart of Barry Trotz to handle this the way he has, because when you take over a team, when you take over a role, whether it's in sports or whatever, how you handle the first situation, the first time you encounter a specific situation, it sort of sets a precedent and it tells people something about you. And I think with all of this, with the comments that Trotz made, I think what he is saying is, I am not to be trifled with. You are not going to circumvent the organization. I'm not going to be okay with players doing something individually that is going to hurt the collective of this team.
Yeah.
I am not going to make a decision that is better for an individual player and put that player, I'm not going to be backed into a corner to make a decision that's good for a player that may not be good for this whole team. And I think kudos to you, Barry Trotz, for saying, look, I have an expectation for how these situations are going to play out, and I will not be backed into a corner. And I'm not implying that Tyson Barrie, had any sort of nefarious intent by handling things the way he did. But I think Tyson Barrie and the Predators now know this is how you are expected to handle things when you have an issue in the organization. And if you go outside of that, I'm not going to cover this. Like, we're going to have an honest conversation about it. So I think Barrie Trotz really sort of showed people, he is a good man who is invested in these players as individuals, but he is also not going to be played. He is not going to be backed into a corner, and he is going to make the hard decisions that are best for the team. And so, I say, hey, Barrie Trotz, you handled this first one out of the gate in a way where everybody knows from here on out, this is how I expect you to handle these kind of situations. And if you don't, I'm not going to, I'm going to be honest about it. So, there you have it, friends.
Yeah. And now it's interesting because all the cards are on the table, and it's, now it's a situation of, okay, how much longer is Barrie going to be here? Because is this going to be a giant sort of finger pointing, sort of standoff kind of thing, for the next, however long he's in Nashville. Remember, no guarantee he even gets traded.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is this very interesting situation. We thought we were done talking about it for a while yesterday, but I have a feeling there's going to be much more to this in the next little bit. Of course, we'll be here to talk about it. Predators, meanwhile, big game tomorrow against the Tampa Bay Lightning. We'll talk about that, plus more Preds topics that come our way. We will do that tomorrow on the Locked On Predators podcast. And where can people find your work?
You can find my work online at InsideThePreds.com. You can find me on social media at AnnK_Mama on Ice.
You can also find me at PenaltyBoxRadio.com or follow me at _NS Morgan. That's going to do it for us on today's Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We will be back with an all-new episode tomorrow. We'll see you then.